If you are looking for a highly scripted interview, then this is definitely not the episode for you. If you want to sit down and hang out with two friends who just let the conversation go where it goes about food, life, stress, hormones, and all the things, then stay tuned. This was a really fun episode I did with my friend, Dr. Sara Pugh, at the end of her visit here with me in my home. She had been staying with me since the middle of June, and we just decided that we would hire a videographer to come over and just talk about whatever we ended up talking about. So this is part 2. If you have not watched part 1, I will make sure that is linked down in the show notes for you. But I hope that you enjoy this fun conversation. If you do, make sure to leave us a comment below so we know to make more content like this. All right, enjoy today's episode. So I think I've changed my mind a little bit on the collagen thing. I know there was a...
Oh, right, okay. Yes, I think we have to say, I'll just say, we were talking about collagen, and then you can say about you've changed your mind.
I mean, just a little bit, because I used to be completely anti-collagen, and I still don't think it really does a lot for skin, but I think it can be useful for joint pain, for just general, basically just joint pain. That's where I've seen it be really helpful for people, and then myself as well, because one of the things that I've noticed this year from turning 45 to 46 is, and I try not to let it get too much in my head, but just different things of low estrogen, like that manifesting in my body. And so the joint pain, things like that have been creeping in. And I use the LifeWave patches. Those have been really helpful, but I've also started adding a little bit of collagen in because I think that I'm missing lubrication. I need to add maybe a little bit more deuterium into different places in my body. And so I don't think it's, when you look at the research, I haven't seen anything for hair growth or skin. Everything still seems the same to me. But as far as getting like the joint pain...
Oh, I think you said your nails had grown more.
But my nails are growing like crazy.
But that's a sign of deuterium as well.
Yeah.
But definitely with collagen, I think it all depends on the quality. Like there's so many different brands and way it's been treated. Because I personally advocate collagen, but bone broth and oxtail things. But I did say that those marshmallows that had the collagen in them, I think it's, say for children, it would be okay for them to have collagen because children need more deuterium anyway.
Yeah.
And I think those are just something that if anyone's listening about foods, that to have a treat, the marshmallows with the collagen and MCT.
They're in the blue bag.
In the blue bag.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I think with the collagen, I think, did you say it was your nails? But
my nails have been growing like crazy, but I haven't noticed a difference in my hair, skin, same. But when estrogen goes down right before my period is when I suffer the most. And then I'm like trying to balance with progesterone. And I will get this like sharp, and this happened within the last year, where I'll get these sharp pains. And some women get frozen shoulder in perimenopause and menopause. And this is a very real thing. I've had a lot of clients with it. And it's starting to happen to me where I didn't work out. I didn't do anything in particular. And I know stress definitely plays a role. But it's painful. Like my shoulder will really hurt. My low back will really hurt. And since adding the collagen and the LifeWave patches, those two, and that's one thing I'd say MLM, but I don't really actively go out there and like push it.
Oh yeah.
But I have seen, like I'm patched up right now. It's been helpful adding those two things just with that specific issue. So I used to say, it's just adding deuterium to your body. It's not good.
But also, if you think about it, it's really sweaty here, and the UV index is sort of 12.
Yeah.
So even I was thinking about this for ages, about how summer's a time for sort of growth.
More deuterium.
And it's, for me, that's the worst time for me to try and make a bikini body. So I do something different, and because there's all the fruit and everything around. Not that I don't succeed sometimes. I just don't put it on the internet. But anyway, but back to the collagen. Like we say, just because with LifeWave, for example, just because it's an MLM, it doesn't mean it's bad. Because David Schmidt's a polymath, and I think he actually needs bodyguards now, because he's also invented a free energy machine. So that's sort of Tesla's work in getting energy out of the environment, which is just charge.
Yeah.
So when you need bodyguards, it means you've made something pretty amazing. And he's got all his LifeWave patches, which just are based on light, and then his new water machine that's got 5 patents. Yeah. But I think it's back to, people are allowed to run a business. He's allowed to set up a business. And if he wants to do an MLM because he doesn't want to spend money on Facebook ads and Google ads,
just don't buy it.
Yeah, exactly. That's another thing we say all the time.
I say that all the time.
Don't buy it.
Don't buy it. My podcast with Victor, the deuterium.
Oh, I love Victor and deuterium.
I do too. And yeah, Victor is, when you interview him, it's a little bit like chasing a cat.
Oh yes, I know.
You're like, I want to talk about this, and then goes in a different direction, and so some people were frustrated about that. But I'm like,
I think I got really angry because someone said, "How dare Victor talk about aging?" Because he had grey hair. But Victor's like he's in his 50s.
Why are people not allowed to age? Can we talk about that for a second?
But also, why
you're not allowed to get grey hair? You're not allowed to have wrinkles.
You're not allowed to have cellulite.
No cellulite. Oh, the cellulite thing is so freaking out of control right now.
I'll be honest, this last year, I've definitely noticed some signs of aging as I am 46 in June, and I'm always looking for natural, holistic ways to support my body. I've been a big fan of red light therapy for many years now, and recently started using the Bon Charge face mask to help my body produce its own collagen. Now, here's the thing that differentiates Bon Charge face mask from the rest of the ones on the market. It has specific wavelengths that are actually meant to target the skin and collagen production. It has been shown to reduce fine lines and wrinkles, and it is low EMF. So it's very safe to use. When you're actually going to have a device on your head, you want to make sure it is the lowest EMF possible. I have tested this with my own EMF meter and believe it is safe and recommend it to clients. So if you're interested in checking out the Bon Charge face mask, I have a special discount for podcast listeners. You can go to boncharge.com and use the code Sarah Kleiner, all one word, for 15% off site-wide. I really love the Bon Charge red light face mask. And if you're looking for more natural ways to support your body in this age and stage of life, I recommend checking it out. Go to boncharge.com and use the code Sarah Kleiner, all one word, to save 15%.
I've got cellulite. I just don't take pictures and put it all over the internet, but I have a heck of a lot less. And I've done carnivore, I've done fasting, I've done all the things.
And red light and
cold therapy and grounding. Still have a little bit, and I'm fine. I don't care. I wear shorts, I don't care. I'm comfortable in my skin. And I think this obsession with getting rid of all the cellulite.
And also lipedema, and we want to talk about that because there seems to be more and more people with this, and some people just say, "Oh, it's just another excuse."
It's another cortisol face.
Yes, or it's someone's excuse for being overweight. Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, there's a link to lipedema and lymphedema as well, to do with EZ water and collagen and things like that. So I think you wanted to talk about lipedema because I said I don't have it, but I've had clients who are clearly, because you mustn't overwork them. Sometimes people will see someone with lipedema, I know they must not be moving enough, and they're not moving enough and they're eating too much, therefore I must exercise, and they haven't got the ligament stability. So I got lots when I taught Pilates, but then I didn't know about leptin in 2012. So what do you want to say about lipedema?
Well, it's another one of these things that I see people taking advantage of, like with the cellulite, people taking advantage and say, if you just do this, you're going to get rid of it. Go ahead, do it.
What was the example? Is it the same person that had wine in their Pugh making up stuff about collagen?
Yes, that's the person that's leading the cellulite charge.
Yes, what's the take on it, that you can get rid of every last little molecule even if you're 45? Because I had a photographer who used to work for Bazaar magazine, and he had a friend who was Kylie Minogue's makeup artist, and he says, I swear to you, Kylie's always had cellulite, we just put makeup on it.
Right.
And this is when she was in her 20s. I mean, pretty much everyone knows. Did you have neighbours in the US or know who Kylie Minogue is?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so everyone knows. Well, she had a makeup artist for her cellulite even when she was really young. So this person leading the charge with a wine in their Pugh over how women are not allowed to have cellulite, and she can get rid of it apparently
with her really expensive program, which...
Do you get rid of other things? I think we say your boobs, your hair.
And your period and your hair.
And your butt.
And the ability to poop.
Oh, really? Okay.
No, that's just what I'm getting from people that come from that. I've got several.
But I think it's something that people are taking it to extreme, that, we're a similar age, but we were talking about this as well. Everybody has an idea of how they want to look themselves or their children to look. And, for me, I have a different view of myself to you, but I really think this body type that's being promoted at women who are nearly 50 or older is just unrealistic.
It is. And that's why everyone's like
you said, lots of women have some sort of extra fat, but it doesn't wobble or it's not grabbable. You know, like with, I don't know, with Alexis, when she gained a little bit of weight, you can't grab anything.
She's solid.
But, you know, there's lots of women who they gain a bit of weight and there's nothing it's not wobbling or dangerous. They have really good labs, but it may not be like a fitness model body. And then trying to get women to achieve something unachievable with extreme carnivore and fasting, and then they lose their hair and
their cycles, and then they end up binge eating and feeling like a failure. That's it's frustrating.
And then they get low leptin, but they're afraid of carbs, so they don't want to go through that phase.
I've got several in my group right now that are afraid to eat carbs, and they're having all these problems, and I'm like, what is your diet looking like? Well, I'm eating like 50 grams of carbs now, and I'm just like, we might need to just have a little bit more.
Yeah.
Like have a baked potato, have an apple, it's okay.
Yeah, there's lots of, I think, didn't you say one of your best-selling lead magnets is your seasonal food guide?
Yeah.
Because I've got one that comes with some of my courses, and I think people say, oh, it's only for Americans, but we've gone and
I've gone all over the entire world
looking
to find local, where you can find local food. And I know some places there are food deserts, and there are places where you're not gonna be able to find local food, but I think you can use the seasonalfoodguide.org is the website I put under my free post the other day, and someone got mad because it was only the US. I'm like, sorry for giving you free information.
Yeah.
But you can find these places, and let's say you live somewhere where there's like, you're in the desert. I'm like, look in a 4-hour radius and just do your best to try to eat those foods that are seasonal at that time.
Or look it up for your state. Like Arizona, I think dates grow in November there.
Yeah.
And then here, there are figs growing at the moment.
Yeah.
Melons are definitely from Georgia.
Yeah.
Because when I wanted to try the sugar diet, I did say to you that the bit that made me think I'm going to do this properly again in the UK is I said, I'd rather have the honey from Horsforth, that's where I live, not the honey that could come from California, and definitely not Manuka honey from New Zealand. And then I can guarantee it's British vegetables. I don't want something out of Yorkshire. I can pick them. Whereas here, with the honey shop, I could buy some things. The peaches were from Carolina, but that's still a long way away.
3 hours.
Yeah, so I think it's something that with the carbs, it's easier in some places to buy seasonal and local. And I definitely think with honey, it's worth trying to get seasonal and local. And then, like everything, I'm okay with honey, but then there's other foods that if I start, it doesn't agree with me. And then with the sugar diet, I think I was saying I really don't like the phrasing of it. It's just very scientific. It all revolves around FGF21. And I was telling you about the different instructions, like how MCT oil can raise FGF21. Too much protein will make it go down. And people should look into the science properly. And I think just from some labs that I've just come back, my insulin went from, I think, 6 down to 3.5. And then
you did a few sugar diet.
Yeah, I did an experiment of it, and then my leptin has gone up, but I wanted that because I did the 7-day fast.
Low.
Yeah, and then the fast would have pushed it lower. And then with my leptin experiments, I also experimented with eating leptin. Sorry, I experimented with running leptin, not fasted, and just eating, and it didn't rise that much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think people, when they get a low leptin, they kind of freak out and think it's going to take months, and it doesn't take months, right?
No, I think it's something I've just run another leptin because it takes about 9 days to come back.
Yeah.
But I think what I'm saying is I really noticed the difference between the Georgia fruit and then the anything America fruit. And then I think maybe I'm imagining it, or maybe that the location of food really matters to me, whereas some people, they might have a little bit more wiggle room. You know how some people are more bothered by blue light, and some people are more bothered by dairy, or some people are more bothered by noise. That, you know, you have to find what works for you. But it's definitely the thing about the carb phobia always upsets people.
It does.
I was guilty of it.
Me too. I remember after 2 years carnivore, and I knew I had to change. I was like, I'm not getting pregnant. I didn't even care about the weight at that point. I had extra weight that I needed to lose, but I was like, you want to get pregnant or you want to lose weight? I want to get pregnant. I don't care if I keep this weight on.
That's actually something really important, that sometimes for some women, they need to be comfortable with a bit of extra weight for a reason while their hormones are rebalancing, and then maybe lose it later when it's convenient. I'm really glad you said that.
Yeah, I was just at that point. I was like, my goal is pregnancy, not to be rail thin, but I ended up I felt guilty after eating an apple. And then when that happened, I kind of just sat there. I'm like, so you're having an anxiety attack because you ate an apple. This is really messed up. And it really made me think. And that's when I just continue to dive into quantum biology, circadian biology. that's what really put me down that rabbit hole of learning and researching, was just like knowing intuitively how out of tune I was with my environment, with myself, with my own body, because I had been overriding things. I'd been overriding signals my body had been giving me for quite some time.
But I think with James and him being born, I know that's when we've talked about ozone and IVs, and you said, I tried all those. Then I got really into cold plunging. Then you did a deuterium depletion. So definitely it was a joint effort with you and Matt for your pregnancy.
Yeah, there was a lot that
Didn't you have IVF once as well?
Twice.
But then you did it naturally.
Work. Yeah, it didn't work. We did twice, and that was really horrible. Yeah, then it was, James was like, no, that's not how I'm coming in. He was like, just be patient, because I'll come when I'm ready. And I always tell the story of going to the James Rock at Stone Mountain.
Oh, yeah.
There's a rock I always go to when I'm there, and I would go there the whole time when I was trying to get pregnant, and I would just like sit on this rock, and I would pray, and I would did a ton of visualization, sitting on the sun, just grounding on the rock. I leave my phone in the car, just sit there, just give myself some peaceful time. And I would just think of my son, and then one day we were there. It was right before I got pregnant. It was, I think, beginning of January, because January 2022 is when I got pregnant. We were standing out there on the rock, and he yells out, "Hey buddy, I'm ready for you. You can come." And I was like, "Excuse me, what? Why did you sit here while I just went through 2 rounds of IVF, multiple miscarriages, all this infertility stuff, and you were just not ready the whole time?" And he needed to, I think, hear that for him to come, and then 2 weeks later is when I got pregnant. So we always do the strategy. Yes, deuterium depletion helped. Yes, circadian biology was helpful. Yes, quantum biology is helpful. All of those things helpful, but there's a spiritual element, and I think it's very quantum, underneath everything, underneath the energy of everything.
Oh yeah, I'm massively into my ceremonies, because actually that just reminded me that I did a special ceremony for Alexis when we took our crystals, and I did my thing when I first met you, and I just asked for luck, and the number of times we've just been so lucky. Yeah. Because Alexis is better than ever, and James is thriving, and I know he got off to a bad start with like the rashes, which I think it was a supplement which you may or may not name that was coming out in your breast milk. Yeah. So the James Rock is very spiritual, but also like with everything, working from a seat of joy, accepting yourself. Like I've made friends with myself ages ago. Yeah, that's the biggest thing I think. And I'm okay with being wrong, or not being perfect, or I'm okay with that. Yeah. I mean, I cringe at looking at my old videos. I don't like to watch my own videos. I don't like to watch any of my stuff. I'm like, no, I don't want to see it. But the thing is, that's like, you seem to look fine when I took some drone footage of you yesterday. I'm glad that I'm not going to let you post. But it was something, I wrote a little poem about it as well, spying on my friend in a vitamin D pose. I was like, this is how we balance hormones. It's just how it goes. I don't know, you can't even see anything other than me naked, but the drone doesn't have a very good camera, and it goes up really quickly, and I put the text over you. No. But I think it's something back to pregnancy and hormones and men and women and making James. What do you think about naked sun exposure and hormones? I love it. I think it's great. I mean, that's how I prefer to sunbathe. Because there's definitely, if your cornhole or whatever you want to call it receives the sun, I just feel different. And I think there's important for breast health, because the blue light and artificial light's terrible for breast and prostate cancer. Yeah. And then I think there's a big benefit to getting boobs and nipples out in the sun for the cancer protection. But also the bum hole, or whatever you want to call it. I brought my testosterone up this summer. Like I had negative, my testosterone was undetectable. Oh, right. It's still like on the low end. But I brought it up. It'll, maybe next time it'll be in the normal range, but I've just been naked sunbathing, and I thought, my doctor was like, you definitely need to go on testosterone or take something, because this is just really low. I know it's probably affecting your mood and your libido and this, that, and the other. And I was like, I just don't. We've had the testosterone experiment with you. I've got a different way of doing it, and we could go on for ages, but then definitely with HRT, I think it's something we talked a lot about, how it's more the estrogen. Like you have the SNPs for the toxic estrogen. estrogen. And we've both got a slow COMT gene, and it means our estrogen and dopamine gets broken down slower.
Right.
But I did run my estrogen. I think I showed you the lab. It was like 34.
Yeah.
So that's, I think that's in American units. But it's one of these things. We were talking about my homocysteine that suddenly went high, but it's come right down. So, I one day said, I think I know what this is. But I think then back to the estrogens. I think the first thing you said was, maybe it's toxic estrogens. But I definitely knew
the headaches for me are toxic estrogens. I know that.
But I think for women who just go and do HRT because somebody put them on it, you must test, you must check your own.
And you got to know your SNPs.
Yeah.
That's the thing that I've really come to the conclusion of with the hormone stuff.
Yeah.
Is you need to know, because everyone, it's so funny, I read all these posts online about estrogen is safe. Every woman needs estrogen for brain protection, preventing Alzheimer's, bone health, this, that, and the other. Perhaps there's some truth to that, but what about strength training? What about diet? And I'm not shaming anyone for doing HRT. I have women who do it.
I think I was going to say that you can go do really well. Progesterone's pretty easy to do, and then pregnenolone. DHEA can turn into estrogen or testosterone. So you need to test and measure.
You need to see what your body does. But each of these hormones, people are going to have a different...
And testosterone can go here or there with women.
Yeah.
And it's like an art. I mean, you can get androgel. There's different injections that you can use. Say with men, it's quite a black art with men, because you don't want just to have the level all the same. In a man, you want it to sort of peak and then it drops. Then you have a longer lasting testosterone, because their levels are sort of like that. But then so are ours. And there's absolutely no reason for women in the menopause, after the menopause, to have low testosterone levels. It's something that we've got the capacity to have something mid-range.
Yeah, you can bring it up.
Yeah, definitely. I was experimenting with the cold plunge after meeting Dr. Thomas Sager.
Yeah.
And there's definitely data. Some of it's a bit conflicting. That's in the research. It goes down.
Studies have been done on men, though.
Sometimes it goes down, but the majority it goes up. But I think there's a massive difference between a 3-minute cold plunge and then a half an hour cold plunge.
Yeah, no, don't do that.
I think I've set it at the moment. It's about 43 Fahrenheit, so that's about 9 degrees C.
Yeah.
And I'll do 3 minutes, but only because Dr. Sager asked me to test it. Whereas some people advocate 30 minutes in the cold plunge at 50 degrees Fahrenheit, or even actually at what someone says that it should be at
55.
55.
I just don't want to. I think it's so different for everyone.
Yeah, it's basically like the diet.
Yeah, it's the diet.
Going to be like a million different cold plunge variations, and you have to experiment.
Yeah, Cash was telling me, it's because I did all this stuff with genetics, which is how I found out that my body makes a toxic form of estrogen. And just going back to the original point of everyone saying estrogen is safe right now.
It depends on the estrogen.
It depends on the person. It depends on their SNPs, and it's not just a slow comp. I have several genes that make me a poor detoxer. It's like a cascade of things that I have going on that make me a poor detoxer, more prone to obesity, type 2 diabetes. I mean, it's not a good genetic layout. But when you look at these posts of a lot of these menopause doctors now that are out there talking about estrogen and how, like even vaginal estrogen doesn't make your levels go up, isn't a problem, can't cause cancer, go read the comments. Because if you read the comments, there's usually a comment from a woman that says, when I got my breast cancer diagnosis, my doctor asked me, are you on estrogen? I said yes, and the doctor said, immediately stop taking this, and you're never allowed to take this ever again. Now, do I agree entirely with the doctor's point of view on this? No, because I do think that some women that have genetic predispositions like me could potentially use that therapy, but they have to be really good at detoxing. They can't use a lot of toxic beauty products. They can't eat estrogenic foods. They can't skip on the sauna. They can't have a crappy lifestyle and use a bunch of stuff that's estrogenic on their skin. They would really have to be very, very, very careful.
But they might want to do like a nano dose, because just because
and like
it's one
teeny little dose.
Yeah, just because it's like 2 pumps of estradiol, somebody might just want a quarter or half a pump.
Right.
And that'll be great, because when I was looking at different testosterone, I've made testosterone face cream and cypionate, and it makes it go up maybe 5 American units. So it's a really small rise, but that little amount can make a huge difference. It doesn't need to triple or double or be on the range that it was when it was 20 or in the men's range for testosterone.
Yeah.
Or even estrogen.
The estrogen has to come out.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're not pooping, peeing, sweating, if you're not detoxing, it's circulating. You have to get it out of the body. Like
Yes.
it's that, and I can't, my body is not very good at doing that.
But also, I brought up the testosterone and DHEA again because so many people don't understand the cycle.
Oh,
so
yeah.
just because someone can't have the estrogen gel, the DHEA they take might turn
into estrogen.
And then the same with like taking testosterone pellets or too much,
Could
your
turn
body's
into
going to turn it
estrogen.
into estrogen. That's why
Right.
you need to test everything all the time.
Right.
And even though people might say, oh, blood sex hormones are not reliable, because I do it that much, it's my own data, so I'll definitely see if something's suddenly gone really high or really low.
Yeah.
And like you said, I think estrogen's really important because you can get more UTIs if you've got low estrogen.
Yeah.
It's important for your skin, your brain.
Yeah.
But we're all different. All women
Yeah.
are different.
Yeah, I'm
And-
still undecided on if it's something I want to even entertain for myself. I'm trying to not.
Sometimes, it's, like I said, with
Right.
a tiny like rise
Like a
in
micro-
something
yeah.
can make the big difference. It doesn't
Yeah.
need to be a mega dose of testosterone or estrogen, and people must test because you
Yeah.
know it's just.
Don't DIY. I've had so many horror stories of people using the telehealth.
Oh, yeah.
Those like DIY, like we'll just give you whatever prescription, we'll do a phone consult with you with our nurse and you're done. And then people get horror stories with that. You need to have somebody that's going to hold your hand, continue testing, ask you about symptoms, and give you all the potential outcomes. And I don't think that that's happening. I think we're so much in the dark ages when it comes to all this stuff. And then there's like the people that are just, I just hate to be dogmatic around this topic, you know? And it's mostly coming from women who are in their mid-30s that are just judging the older women for making whatever choices they've made about hormones and saying,
Well, lots of these women in their 30s are on birth control, and that changes your hormones.
oh, totally.
Or they
Yeah.
use peptides, and they can alter levels of hormones. I don't mean all peptides, of course. I mean some, and there are a plethora of other things that people take. Like I had a man once who took a lot of cordyceps, triglycerides, and Shilajit, and his his testosterone
went up.
and his prolactin went high, and his progesterone went really high, and he was lactating. So that's why you need to measure. And all of this conversation is for men as well, because men TRT and men hormone testing is just as badly done as women.
it is. Yeah.
In the
Yeah.
UK, I think they just assume that men don't need any HRT,
Yeah.
and then or men will just be put on a one-size-fits-all dose. So we're talking to the men and the women here with the
Yeah.
hormone measuring and stuff, because
Yeah.
you know, often men and say if a woman's in a perimenopause, the man most likely is a similar age. So
Yeah,
maybe they have. I think men do have a periandropause.
I don't know. Probably so.
But then
Yeah.
men's hormones are important as well, and men can get estrogen dominance.
Oh, it's a big
And the men have got these SNPs we're talking about as well, because men take DHEA supplements, and that might aromatize into estrogen. Or men want to wear underwear that could have
Yeah.
plastic in it, or
Yeah.
you know, there's certain fabrics and food. You know, there's estrogenic food like flaxseed oil and
Yeah.
hemp can
Even
be
lavender
estrogenic.
oil
Yes,
can-
I was going to say that.
Yeah,
and
there's so
cannabis
many-
is estrogenic in
Yeah.
men, and it masculinizes women a bit.
There's a woman on Instagram, and she's very dogmatic, and I just really, because a lot of people have said I should have her on the podcast, and
Yeah.
I don't like to bring people on my podcast who are dogmatic and talk in absolutes and use like a one size fits all.
Yeah.
Because some women can use a lavender oil and they can take ashwagandha and they
Yeah.
can do these things, and it doesn't, and they can even do estrogen therapy, and
Yes.
they don't get breast cancer, and they don't have the issues that someone like me has. Like, I knew that I had estrogen dominance before I even knew my SNPs, before I even did a blood test. I knew I was estrogen dominant because I always carried so much more weight in my hips and thighs than the average person. It was always really hard to lose.
Like a pear.
It was like a serious pear. And then I had like really heavy periods,
Oh, yeah,
really
yeah.
bad mood swings, and I was like debilitated with cramps. And then the thing is, that all went away when I found circadian biology, quantum biology. I never did a single blood test. I never really did a lot of like supplementation or even doing the DIM detox or, you know, all the other supplements you can do to help to push the estrogen out. I didn't do any of that to get things more optimized. I just changed my diet and my lifestyle and my circadian, because circadian, and I did a post on this recently, actually really impacts how well your body can detox estrogen.
Yeah, that was a really interesting factor, that the
Yeah.
circadian rhythm.
It really
But that makes
impacts
sense,
anywhere
though.
from 43, I think it's up to like 83% of gene expression.
But that will make sense because we do our detoxing when we're asleep. And I
Right.
found an article about how just because you think you slept well, maybe your biochemistry says otherwise. So that would make sense that
Right.
people say, well, I can go in front of blue light and my phone in
And
the
I
evening
sleep just
and I sleep
fine.
just fine. But then if you actually run some labs, you might find that the biochemistry in your waistline and your mood will say otherwise. So I think it's important to note there.
Yeah, definitely. There's so much to it. So I feel like the hormone conversation is continuing, and just to say for every woman you're going to do estrogen therapy and it's going to give you breast cancer is wrong, but to say you're going to do estrogen therapy and it's not going to impact the body's ability to express a cancer is also wrong. Like we need to give people more information about the topic instead of guilting women into, if you're not doing the hormones, then you're aging wrong. You're going to get like Alzheimer's, have bone problems. Like what about strength training and diet? Are we just not doing that anymore? Because that's going to impact if you get Alzheimer's to a big degree.
But also I think learning new things all the time as you get
Yes.
older, because with our work, we always have to learn new things.
Yes. Yeah. And I've got a woman in my group. She's in her 70s. She competes in weightlifting competitions. She's not on any hormones, but she's kind of been with me since I was in my carnivore days.
Oh, yeah.
And she's just kicking butt. Like she's like, I thought I wanted to do hormones. I don't. She's like, but I'm doing so good, but I'm hearing all this noise about it, but I'm in my 70s and she's just kicking butt. And I'm like, well, why do it just because all these, like it was like me with the carnivore.
She probably just believes she can, because I believe I can do a back tuck and I can do everything I could when I was 25 and I still can, and chase after your son and teach him how to ride a bike and all sorts of things, and I just think I can. So maybe the 70-year-old is just the same mindset.
Yeah.
She believes in her health and everything, and therefore it's there. And then other people, you can definitely think yourself sick. Same as the Napoleon Grow Hill is think and grow rich, but I'm sure you could think negative thoughts and grow sick.
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. And that's why, getting back to the lipedema conversation.
Oh yes, we need to pick that up.
Yeah. You know, that's a big, and it is a real problem. My mother had lipedema and lymphedema, and she had to have her leg amputated when I was pregnant with James. She became paralyzed when I was pregnant with Alexis. Like, I guess I'm past getting pregnant, but it seems like every time I get pregnant, my mom has some tragic health thing that goes on. I don't know the spiritual implications of that, but she's been in a wheelchair since I was pregnant with Alexis. And then when I was pregnant with James, she had to have her leg amputated, and she's not diabetic. It was because of the poor circulation and the poor flow in her leg. And she would have all this swelling and all this pain. And she had an infection that just wouldn't heal. And they were like, this is going to kill you if we don't take it. And so my mother had really bad lipedema. And then it turned, after the cancer and the chemo, it turned into lymphedema, where it was like a combination of both. So when I talk about this subject, I don't want to minimize anybody's experience. It's just becoming another thing to sell more supplements and sell more things. And I'm seeing women really be very concerned and freaked out about this topic. And do you actually have it? If you do, there are some things you can do to help it.
I'm just gonna steal your thunder. Didn't you say, when we have these conversations, didn't you say actually loads of these women have got leptin resistance leptin dysregulation?
They do.
Because definitely one part of the leptin reset would be making your mitochondria make more water via a keto diet. So I don't deny that keto has helped some of these women. But then I think, as I mentioned, the water and the collagen and the connective tissue, there's a deuterium and circadian rhythm aspect as well.
Definitely.
So definitely leptin was an important thing with the lipedema. And I think also being understanding, because I'm sure they've been told they just don't move enough and they eat too much.
Right. And there's an estrogen dominance impact as well. And that my issues with the lipedema was the worst. And I was actually diagnosed with stage 1 by an endocrinologist when I was going through fertility. And she said, well, you're eventually going to have to get surgery for this. This is going to progress. It's going to get worse. And I was like thinking of my mother's legs and all the situation she had. And I just kind of said no. And I just put it on the shelf because, again, I was worried about getting pregnant. That's what my goal was. But what I did was fix my leptin. And I got off the carnivore diet because my the swelling in my legs was the most painful when I was on carnivore and I wasn't pooping. Sorry, like.
But also some
if you're
people
not-
get sort of like other gouty kind of.
Yeah, that's what I was.
Because uric acid, if you do keto too intense, you can make uric acid. So that would make sense for the pain.
Yeah, I think
the
the
gout,
estrogen, being able to detox that estrogen and get it out is so important if you're dealing with lipedema. Like,
So would you say it helped the carnivore in the beginning, but then when everything backfired, like with your thyroid and stuff, that the whole thing all backfired later because it was just too much for too long?
in the beginning with carnivore, before I started following everyone and kind of started jacking myself up, I felt a lot of inflammation just go. Stomach was flat, inflammation gone, heavy cycles gone. Actually, my cycle just disappeared for a few months there, but I was so relieved because I didn't have to deal with that pain every month. And then it became like, well, maybe I should be getting this every month because I'm only 39. Like, that's a problem. But it backfired on me after about a year. But I was so deep into it and my mind was, like I said, I felt guilty about eating an apple.
Didn't your T3 get really low and then they put you on thyroid medication? Because I think
Put me on Cytomel.
making people do a very ketogenic diet that's very keto or very carnivore and then putting them on thyroid medication to cover up the fact that the diet can tank the hormones, I think that's terrible, because you had a horrible experience with the T3.
Horrible. Yeah, and I was talking to because people will always say, oh, didn't you talk to this doctor, that doctor, this doctor? This doctor says this. I'm like, dude, I was friends with all of the carnivore doctors. They were all on you can go back and find them all on my podcast. We had conversations offline. Very nice people.
Oh yeah, they're lovely. Very nice people.
I don't have anything negative to say.
I don't have anything
about
negative.
any of
It's
those
about the
people.
data. When I was a scientist, my supervisor, Sheena Radford, used to say, I'm not insulting you, I'm insulting the data.
Yes.
Whereas the whole thing about it is, if you've got horrible labs and horrible numbers on the scales with a diet that you're doing, it's just the data. And same with your thyroid data.
Yeah.
If you've been around for a little bit, you know I'm not a huge fan of tracking every single biometric. I don't really like tracking devices. But here's the thing. I find a need in my client population, in my community, to occasionally check in and see, how is my body responding to stress? How is my body responding to food? What does it feel like to have elevated blood sugar? What does it feel like to have low blood sugar? That's why I'm really excited to have partnered with NutriSense to offer you a program that will give you 24/7 insights into your own blood glucose and how your body is actually responding to your environment and your food so that you can make targeted adjustments. Now, with this plan, you'll also get one-to-one guidance from a glucose certified dietitian, structured habit tweaks to help you train your metabolism, continuous feedback loops so you can adjust your routine and understand how your lifestyle is impacting your body, progress tracking for meals, weight, and glucose, accountability for consistent results. Now, if you're interested in this, you can save 33% as a part of my community. You'll visit nutrisense.io/Sarah K. That's nutrisense.io/Sarah K.
And my doctor said, if you want to get pregnant, we've got to bring this up.
Yes.
And then the carnivore doctors are saying it's not a problem because you're just more thyroid sensitive, just like you become more insulin sensitive. Insulin goes low.
Was there any data to prove that? Because didn't you say you were gaining weight?
I was gaining weight.
Yeah, that's.
And I was more. I was puffy. I was just feeling like I was retaining a bunch of water. Like my.
What about hair loss? Because that's another hallmark of too much keto.
Yeah, my hair was
or
thinner.
too
You
low.
can go back and see the photos of that time back at the end of 2020, middle 2020. My hair was noticeably thinner at that time too. And I kept, it was like this giant echo chamber I was in. No, you're fine. You don't need to eat carbs. It's just this is just a normal thing for carnivores. And I was just thinking like, this just it's not shaking out really. But I tried the T3 because my regular doctor said if you want to get pregnant, and then there was another carnivore doctor who was notorious for talking about the thyroid and then yet putting everybody on thyroid medication.
Yeah.
She was in my ear saying you need to go on thyroid medication. So I did. I mean, right off the bat, even with the lowest dose possible, compounded, was extreme insomnia. I felt like I was like yawning and I couldn't like get the yawn all the way out, if that makes sense. It was just like I couldn't take a full breath, I couldn't sleep, and I felt like so crazy. And then I can't take this. Like my body is telling me I don't need this medication. So I'm going to have to just change my diet. And that ended up actually working.
But also the other question is, did you ever binge eat or get cravings on a carnivore diet? Because versus now with people and switching to a circadian way of eating, because some people find that when they can have a little bit of seasonal produce, they seem to be perfectly happy with that, and they don't go off and eat ice cream. Because I know people who are carnivore, but
and
then
they candy and ice cream.
Yeah.
For me, that was forbidden. My whole thing with like being an alcoholic, basically.
I see. So that's why you're very regimented.
I was very regimented, and that's why I'm regimented now, really.
I
but
get it.
I'm kind of laid back about being regimented. I'm just like, yeah, I know how I'm going to feel if I do that, so I'm just not going to do it.
That's such a good way to reframe the whole negative experience of having an alcohol problem, and how you've used all of the transferable skills to now make yourself. That probably explains why you're so regimented with work. So it's like making a negative thing become such a positive.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's how I was when I was carnivore, because you were like, oh, people on carnivore are eating ice cream. I wasn't.
Yeah.
I would eat extra ribeye. I would eat another fillet. Of course you're going to gain weight doing that. But that didn't happen often.
But maybe you also succumb to just eat more fat.
More meat,
I'm
more
not.
fat.
I'm not criticizing. I'm just saying you can't just produce one answer of eat more fat.
No.
I think that's a great answer for a lot of people. But then you probably were told that as well.
Well, what a lot of people would say, which I felt like, okay, they were like, if you feel that you need to overeat, just eat more meat. You can't overeat meat. You can't overeat. And I would say, okay. And then I would just feel so horrible. Like I would do it and I was like, now I feel more tired, because I was like killing myself with the protein, And I see a lot of people do that, and I understand if you're someone that's eating 10 tubs of ice cream and then you just have instead ribeyes, that's actually an improvement. But when I was able to switch over to a more seasonal diet, and then allowing myself to have something every now and then, it just stopped a lot of that cycle.
Oh yeah,
no,
that's definitely. I think with carb phobia, it's like a whole. You could write an encyclopedia all about different kinds of carbs and when. And I do definitely think the seasonal and local is more important than people realise. It's not just kind of splitting hairs. I think it's something that does make a difference. And then people always ask me about animal and protein and fish. Yes, you would want it to be as local as possible, but the information that's transferred from the fruit, because it has to grow in UV light. And it literally takes the light, and then, as we talked about at the beginning, light and matter are related, so it's just slowed down. Or David Bohm just said matter's frozen light.
Yeah.
And he's a great physicist, so we can just know that the plant's going to provide worse dodgy information or
that's what I just said in my group, because people were getting really confused
because the animal ate the grass in the right environment, and then it turned everything into forms for us, and then the information's different. But overall, if you could buy lamb from Georgia instead of lamb from New Zealand, you should pick Georgia lamb.
Yeah.
And then I think definitely there's a lot more to be said about the horrible quantum information when foods come too far.
Yeah, definitely. And someone in my group was asking yesterday if I could talk about this more let's say you get blueberries and you freeze them and you eat them in the winter, is that a conflicting signal? And I'm like, well, you're trapping light from another season and eating it in another season. But I still think...
But the location information's correct.
Yes.
The blueberries still came from Stone Mountain. It's just, if you ate them in winter, your body's not expecting blueberries in winter.
Right. But it's going to be better than probably having a mango banana smoothie in the middle of winter if you're...
Because they definitely don't grow in Georgia. There's no banana trees, and there's no dragon fruit tree, and there's no durian tree. That's my favourite fruit. I was telling you I really wanted a durian, but then I thought it's $100 and it's the worst possible thing. It's coming from Vietnam, and you can't get durian in Georgia.
Yeah.
And I think personally, a lot of the time with people who say, why are you carnivore or keto? And some people just say, because I feel really good eating like this and I don't want to. That was the same as me in the non-seasonal produce. I can tell if it's not local and seasonal. I'm not being difficult and I'm not frightened of it. It's just I feel way better if everything's seasonal and local.
Yeah.
And I think it's something that makes a difference. And I think also back to the carb phobia, I just made a reel about it, about talking about how I think keto, carnivore, really good for getting antibodies down.
Yeah.
And I showed my T3 going down. Then when I added carbs back in seasonally and locally, the T3 went back up again. But then my next post is all about how you should always look at reverse T3 and T3 together, because there should always be 10 times more T3 than reverse T3. So I actually have pretty low reverse T3. So when I do the equation, there's nothing at all wrong with my thyroid, whereas some other people might have their T3 sort of not sort of top range or not over the middle range, but then they've got really, really low T3 as well. Sorry, they've got really, really low reverse T3 as well, so they don't actually need meds.
Yeah.
And then some people who just take more and more and more meds, their T3 is going to be really high. So it's just a way of, there's always nuances with thyroid, and just taking thyroid medication isn't the solution. I know lots of people who have terrible weight issues and they have been on thyroid meds all their lives.
Yeah, there's always the layer of needing to address the lifestyle.
Yeah,
and
exactly. And you just want
stress.
Yes, and I'm not saying anything against carnivore as an elimination diet. It's brilliant, and it's helped lots of people with the antibodies. Then the whole light cycle and getting more vitamin D and seeing the morning light. There's even more papers now showing how it improves metabolism, and for every hour you're late going out in the morning, the BMI can go up 1.5. So there's lots of factors for thyroid. And even people who are on medication, you know, you can lower it down or taper to half the amount. Maybe you're going to come off it. And, you know, like HRT, some people do need a little bit of synthetic thyroid.
Yeah, exactly. It's not, there's just not a one size fits all for anything. And I think that's the biggest thing that you and I are always coming back to.
And also the other thing, that's why I mentioned reverse T3. People keep sending me one marker. My ferritin's this, and it's like, well, where are the 100 other labs? Or my leptin is 7.
My D3 is this.
Yeah, my D3 is this.
That's a big one.
Or, you know, you need a whole panel to, you know, you don't need to spend a lot of money, but you need to make sure there's a set, like you've got the thyroid antibodies, there's a reverse T3, the T4, the TSH, and the T3 as a set. And then you want to look at, say, insulin, HbA1c, leptin, all of those together as a set. I want to look at a
metabolic panel most of the time.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to look at you know, if you're looking at lipids, you have to look at all the lipids.
Yeah, and the ratios and things like that. And even then, labs are a tool rather than a rule.
Right.
But I think it's useful because it's all like bugbears of ours, you know, just either sending me a
one
complete
marker.
Yeah, or a complete stranger expecting me to read the labs for free, because I don't know anything about people's, you know, your labs will be a result of your environment, of your stress, of your circadian rhythm, your diet, your EMF exposure, toxin exposure. So you need to know about the lifestyle.
You might have noticed a lot of viral posts about methylene blue lately on the internet, and there's a lot of fear that you could potentially turn your brain blue and cause toxicity issues. But what those articles aren't telling you is that those doses were 100 times higher or more than the standard dose. Now, I have actually been using methylene blue personally and have several clients that also use it. And when I choose my methylene blue, I choose Troscriptions because it is a physician-led company. They actually had 4 physicians that have used their real-world clinical experience to develop extremely effective health optimization solutions. It's pharmaceutical-grade quality because Troscription sources high-quality ingredients globally, subjecting each to rigorous testing to ensure unparalleled purity and potency. It's easy to dose. These buccal troches are actually scored, so you can divide them down into a tiny little dose to try it out. I use it for mitochondrial optimization when I've had a night of poor sleep or if I am flying. If you want to try out the brand that I use and trust, go to troscriptions.com/Sara K for 10% off of your first order. That's TROSCRIPTIONS.com/Sara K for 10% off of your first order.
Yeah.
But I think they're still interesting and useful.
And they can shift. Again, like what we were saying earlier with the leptin, you were able to bring yours up. You were able to bring your thyroid up. I was able to bring my thyroid up, and I was able to bring my leptin up to get pregnant. It didn't take forever. It was pretty quick for me once I made the changes and was like really, really consistent with those. And so I think people get really bent out of shape when they have a lab marker that's not optimal. and they're like, oh, this is it, that's it, and they are really freaked out.
Like homocysteine is always a B12 or folate deficiency. I told you loads of times over and over, there's nothing wrong with my B12 or my folate, and then the homocysteine people get in a big panic about. But I think, like you said, that they get in a panic about cholesterol levels without looking at the ratios or even looking at triglycerides or whether they're insulin resistant. But I still think labs are useful.
Yes, agree.
But it's not, it's a tool, not a rule.
Yeah, definitely. You want to talk about addiction?
Oh, yes. I think it was like you sent me a text, a WhatsApp, and it said something about taking a Xanax, and I didn't realize I thought you'd actually taken one, and you said you could do with one. But then I think
I'm so stressed out. I feel like I could take one, but I wouldn't actually do that because it's, again, kind of opening that door that I don't want to open.
Because I think also you said like you've used psychiatric medication, but then I've had times of craziness, and I think I once said to you in the car, or maybe I was just insane because I spent too much time inside, because light is like a drug or an evil hypnotist that changes the level of neurotransmitters.
Well, it does. That's the thing. I wish I had found this 10 years ago. I was taking 8 different medications, sleep, anxiety, SSRI. I was on a benzo. The benzo withdrawal was worse than the alcohol withdrawal.
And you took trazodone, because I tried
trazodone for sleep.
I tried a trazodone here, and I didn't even sleep, and I felt all day.
Alexis every now and then.
Oh, well, she's stopped them now.
Yeah, she's off of them.
Yes.
But yeah, we've got, we have those for her if the behavior gets off the charts.
Just being honest.
Yeah, just being honest. But we don't, that's like every 6 month type of a deal. I don't even remember the last time.
She's on like low, because lots of children like Alexis can be, it's the Kosh medicating.
Drugged. Yeah, but we have like as a PRN, but it's in my home, and I was on those things. I wouldn't do a benzo ever again because that withdrawal was worse than anything I've ever been through. I felt like I was hallucinating. I mean, it's not like Jordan Peterson almost.
Oh yeah, he was really sick.
He said he almost died from it. It's very, very serious. And so I was totally joking. It was just like, this is the kind of day I've had just for the kids and all the things. But yeah, what I was saying is I wish I had found circadian biology. I wish I had found this just way of living 10 years ago, because I think it would have been that much easier for me to come off of those medications. I just used diet to help me come off.
I really agree with you. I genuinely, like I said, it's all real, the quantum. And when people try to think, oh, you're a grifter, why are you selling this again? A lot of the time we have so much free information, and it's not just us scripting this. I really like a different person, and the more quantum I do and the deeper I go and the more I learn, and same as you, because we always discover new things. Like I definitely just feel better and better. Like I've not had one single, like any kind of mental health issues, because I was saying to you, Sarah, when I leave, I'm going to have a meltdown not seeing James, because I was worried that he'll look for me.
He will.
I'll be really upset, but I haven't had that. And also lots of other things. I've just been very much the same mood. So with this quantum, it really is real. And the whole thing about the mental health, yes, I've had some interesting experiments with the mushrooms here, but the circadian stuff that we do really is important.
Yeah, it's foundational.
We do mean it.
And I think the biggest thing that you and I are always trying to do is give what can someone who has no money, who has to work, what can they do? That's because it's free. Most of the stuff we talk about is free. And I laughed so hard, someone called me a snake oil salesman on Facebook. I'm like, for talking about sunshine, for talking about grounding, for talking about drinking good water. Okay, wrong bitch, move on. I'm not that girl, but that's the message that we want to, I think, bring home. Whether you do HRT or not, whether you do whatever supplement or not, you still need these very foundational things that you and I are constantly talking about that aren't really going to cost you anything. And they can do so much. Like I am, on a cellular level, a completely different person than I was even 2 years ago.
And also, you don't need expensive equipment, because I haven't had time to use the Axiom, and I've just been using the Georgia Sunshine, being grounded in the basement, and the fact I can make my room dark. And then, like for people, and I haven't used the Axiom, so people think they need all these expensive things.
They need the hydrogen, they need this. There are things you can do to enhance a really optimized baseline. But if you don't have that optimized baseline, then I'm not going to recommend that you buy a lot of other things, honestly. I really want you to optimize the basics first.
Exactly. And even something like a steam sauna, because I come here and break everything. Like I've made the cold plunge really dirty, and then I've tested this steam sauna to hell, and I haven't broken it yet. And it's, it's very affordable for anybody on
Yeah.
any budget. You don't need to necessarily have one of these
The
much more
infrared,
expensive
yeah.
infrareds. And that steam sauna is very affordable. And also for people, you can get a bathtub, put ice in it
Yeah.
and get in that. You
Really
don't
nice
need to
stuff.
buy a
Cold
forge.
plunge. Nope.
Or some people have got the fortune to live close to the sea or a lake.
Yeah.
And then I think that's another thing that's a very interesting topic for another time, about how it might be a myth that it causes fat burning in everybody.
Oh yeah, we should definitely talk about that. Yeah.
But I definitely love my cold plunge and my little routine, because when you were talking about your ways to not have pain, I was been really experimenting with the sauna, the steam sauna and the cold plunge and outside in kind of short cycles. And I was going to say that there's definitely a lot of value in cold plunging, but without stressing yourself out.
So I know we could probably talk the rest of the day, and we're definitely going to have to do another podcast about cold therapy. But I'm just curious, what's the thing you're going to miss most about Atlanta? Because you've been here for a while. You're going back in 3 days.
The family, I was just thinking about that earlier. The sun is great, but I always say that there's always the human connection, that don't be a quantum recluse, that people matter.
Yeah.
And I think my second family I'll miss the most in different ways, because I have different relationships with your husband as I do, obviously, to you.
Yeah.
And you know, he's very dear to me in his own way. And I could write a whole comedy series about Sarah's husband and the stuff that he does. It's, you know, and I call it Daddy reacting too, because he just gets, you know, there's very reacting that mean to us. We could give examples of things that he said.
Yeah.
But yeah, the family.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like having, because I feel like this time,
I don't miss the food, because I'd be 250 pounds if I'm not careful here. That's a whole other topic though. I've been doing a big project of what it's all geared up, all these tricks that everything's set up here to make
you fat.
Yeah, to
It
make
really
Americans
is.
Overeat.
It is.
And it's
Everything-
delicious, the food, even some of it that's rubbish, like my Walmart wedding cake, it's still delicious.
Yeah, it is. America is the land of plenty of food excess, entertainment excess,
Yes.
alcohol excess. It's just too much, and you really do have to be cognizant and aware. And it is easy to lose your intuition and what actually makes sense, which is why some people do need to track. Some people do need to wear a CGM. Some people need to do that to get back in touch with their own signals.
But also, it's not necessarily unhealthy food that's really delicious here. It's just the quantity. Like the cottage cheese that I tried was really delicious. Of course, it had to be the full
The high fat.
one.
That's all I buy is the high fat.
Yeah, it's so delicious. And then with,
Yeah.
say, cheeses or meats and things and burgers,
Yeah.
it's not necessarily just Twinkies and Debbie's and Chick-fil-A and what other famous food places could I have gone to, or just Walmart, and we'll find out whether the Walmart cake is good or bad. Well, I don't know. No disrespect to Walmart. As a person who's learnt a lot about America, I think you can get really good deals and bargains in there. And we got a really good bubble maker and a football.
Oh yeah, the bubble maker.
Yeah, the best bubble maker ever was something I found in Walmart.
Yeah.
And then some people buy clothes there. And definitely for me, I'm going to Walmart next time I have to play with James. It's the best way to get covered in everything.
Everything, yeah.
Yeah, from beetroot to, I don't know, apple juice or whatever.
It does.
You know,
Exactly.
I don't know,
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
Chocolate, all sorts that kids get.
Chocolate.
Egg yolks.
Yeah.
Because he eats salmon roe, but somehow he's managed to get on my white stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I got it out, of course, eventually.
Yeah. Well, we'll definitely do another episode on the cold, and maybe in a few weeks, just to reconnect, an excuse to sit on Zoom.
Oh yeah, we might do. I think
Yeah.
it's something. 'Cause also, I have a question for you. If you had to visit the UK, how would you get ready to live a quantum life there and travel there?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I'd probably try to get a little bit more inept with my fasting, because there's a lot less UV there, and that's a good question.
I think you'd be surprised at how I always go on about the deliciousness of food here. I think you'd notice we don't have horrible food in Britain, but
I've heard the food's not so good.
But then there's always advantages of things not being super delicious. So
Yeah.
I think lots of Americans would find.
I'd be fine
I
with
say
it.
to a lot of people who complain they've never left their state or even their town, it's like, go and try living or going somewhere else, because maybe, you know, you think it's not this environment, but when you go and have to live or eat somewhere differently, a lot of Americans who come to France always say they can tolerate bread because the bread's less glutenized, or people just eat less, feel more nourished and lose weight as well. So there's definitely, you know, I could do all sorts about food in America.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah,
So
we
yeah,
could talk all
I'll
day.
miss the food maybe. No, but I won't really, because I think I've managed to like keep it on control, but I'm just learning about new things all the time, and
Yeah.
then, you know, stuff can slip in. And I always say I don't want to know about something.
Yeah.
Luckily we didn't end up going for the really nice burger in the garage because we were too disorganized with
Oh
time.
yeah, that's what happens. We want to do something and then we just get caught up into work and it doesn't happen. But yeah, there will be more trips and things in the future for sure. Thanks so much for listening to the Evolving Wellness podcast and watching the Sarah Kleiner Wellness YouTube channel. I appreciate you being here. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to like this video and share with a friend or family member. Don't be afraid to spread the message of circadian biology, quantum biology, and thanks again for listening.
I'm Dr. Sarah. Let's get quantum savage. If you like any of this content, make sure you share it with your friends and your family.